The night was quiet in the small town of Crescent Valley, California. The streets were empty, and the sky was full of stars. Ethan Miller, a young astronomer, sat alone on the roof of his house with a telescope pointed toward the heavens. He was 28, quiet, and tired of living a life that felt too small for his dreams. Every night, he watched the stars and wondered if someone out there was watching him back. He didn't believe in fate or miracles anymore until that night. At first, it looked like a shooting star, bright, silver, moving faster than anything he had ever seen. But then, it changed direction. It wasn't falling straight down. It was aiming. The object streaked across the sky, splitting the darkness with a burning trail before crashing into the forest near the hills with a thunderous boom. The ground trembled. Birds flew into the air. Ethan froze, staring at the smoke rising in the distance. His heart raced. He grabbed his flashlight and jacket and ran. When he reached the forest, the air smelled of ozone and fire. Trees were broken, the ground still hot. He followed the faint light glowing through the smoke until he saw it, a crater, deep and glowing blue. In the center lay a figure. A girl. Her skin shimmered faintly like moonlight, her silver hair spread across the dirt. She was breathing, but barely. Her clothes looked strange, thin, smooth, almost like liquid metal. Ethan's hands shook. He leaned closer. "Hey, are you okay?" Her eyes opened slowly, bright, glowing silver like twin stars. She stared at him, confused, frightened, but calm. When she spoke, her voice sounded soft and musical. "Where am I?" she whispered. "You're on Earth," Ethan said, unsure if she even understood. "You fell from the sky. I thought you were a meteor." She blinked, looking around. "The coordinates, they were wrong," she murmured, her voice fading. "I wasn't supposed to land here." Her hand trembled as she tried to sit up, but she collapsed. Without thinking, Ethan caught her. Her skin was warm but smooth, not quite human. For a second, he thought he was dreaming. Then she whispered, "My name is Lyra." Ethan took her home that night. He didn't care what logic said. He just knew she needed help. He laid her on the couch, covered her with a blanket, and stared at her glowing face. She looked peaceful, but unreal, like a living star trapped in human form. When she finally woke, she looked around the small house, curious about everything. She touched the lamp, the books, the television. "Your world is noisy," she said softly. Ethan tried to smile. "Yeah, you could say that." Then she did something that froze him completely. She raised her hand toward the cracked cup on the table. The cup slowly lifted into the air, glowing faintly, and the crack disappeared as if time reversed. Ethan stepped back. "How did you do that?" he whispered. She looked at him, confused. "You call it energy. I call it life." He didn't know what to say. All his years of studying stars, searching for signs of life, and now, life had come to him. She wasn't human. And yet, there was something so human in her eyes: sadness, curiosity, fear. But outside, someone else had seen the crash. In a dark van parked on the hill, Agent Cole of the National Security Division watched the footage from a drone. He zoomed in, seeing Ethan carrying the glowing figure through the forest. "We've got a situation," he said into his radio. "Unidentified entity. Possibly extraterrestrial. I want her alive." Back at the house, Lyra sat near the window, staring at the stars. "They will come for me," she whispered. "Your kind always do." Ethan frowned. "My kind? You mean humans?" She nodded. "Your people fear what they don't understand. My signal was traced. They're already searching." Ethan felt a chill. "Then we'll hide you," he said. Lyra looked at him with surprise. "Why would you risk that? You don't even know me." Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe I don't have to. You fell from the stars, and somehow, I was the one who found you. Feels like that means something." For a moment, she just stared at him, and the glow in her eyes softened. Something inside her, something forbidden, stirred. She had studied humans from afar, but she had never felt what they felt. Until now. The night grew colder. Ethan turned off the lights and drew the curtains, unaware that surveillance drones were already closing in, scanning for unusual energy readings. Lyra touched her chest and whispered, "If I stay too long on this planet, my light will fade. I will cease to exist. Ethan looked at her, eyes full of worry. Then I'll help you get home. Before she could answer, the quiet night broke. A sharp buzzing sound filled the air machines. Lights flickered outside. Ethan rushed to the window. Black vans. Red beams sweeping through the forest. Lyra stood up, her glow returning. They found me, she said calmly. Ethan's heart pounded. What do we do? She turned to him, her silver eyes shining brighter than ever. Run. The power went out. The house filled with blue light from her body. As she took his hand, the air shimmered, and the walls shook. Outside, agents shouted orders, but when they broke down the door, the house was empty, only a trail of starlight leading into the night. And that was the moment Ethan realized this was no ordinary love story. It began the night a star fell to earth, and took his heart with it. The night wind howled through the forest as Ethan and Lyra ran hand in hand, their breaths sharp and fast. Behind them, the sound of engines echoed through the hills, black vans with flashing red lights cutting through the trees. The agents were close. Ethan's heart pounded louder than the footsteps behind him. He had never run for his life before, but now he wasn't just running for himself. He was running for her. Branches snapped under their feet, leaves brushed against their faces, and the moon followed them like a silent witness. Lyra's glow flickered weakly with every step. She stumbled once, her knees hitting the ground. Ethan turned back immediately. Lyra. You okay? She nodded weakly. My power, it's fading. I can't hold this form long. Ethan lifted her up, helping her walk just a little further. There's an old bridge ahead. We can hide under it. They reached the wooden bridge that crossed over a small stream. Ethan guided her down the muddy slope and helped her sit under the bridge. Her skin glowed faintly, lighting the water below with soft silver light. Ethan took off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. You're freezing, he said. Lyra looked at him with confusion. Why do you do this? Why risk everything for me? He met her gaze, breathing hard. Because you didn't fall here for nothing. Maybe I was meant to find you. For a long moment, they said nothing. Only the sound of water and distant shouts filled the night. Lyra's eyes softened. She had been trained to study human emotion, not to feel it. But sitting there, hearing the fear in his voice and the warmth in his words, something inside her changed. She reached out and touched his face gently. Your heart is strange, Ethan Miller. It shines brighter than any star I've seen. Ethan gave a nervous smile. Guess that makes us even. You shine brighter than all of them. Before she could reply, the sound of drones buzzed overhead. Blue light scanned through the trees like thin blades. Lyra pulled back. They're near. Ethan peeked through the cracks in the bridge. He saw agents spreading out, weapons drawn, scanning for movement. He whispered, we can't stay here. Lyra closed her eyes, breathing deeply. Her hands glowed faintly as she placed them in the water. The stream around them started to shimmer, turning into mist. The fog rose thick, covering the area in seconds. They won't see us now, she whispered. Ethan looked at her in awe. You can control water. She shook her head. Not water. I control the energy within it. Every living thing carries light. The fog grew thicker, hiding them completely. The agents shouted in confusion above the bridge. Thermal's not picking up anything, one said. She's masking the signal, shouted another. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand again. Come on. Let's move while we can. They followed the stream deeper into the forest until they reached an old cabin. It looked abandoned, dusty, broken windows, and a half-collapsed roof. But it was shelter. Ethan helped Lyra inside. She sat by the wall, her glow dimming again. I can't hide this forever, she said softly. They're tracking my energy. And if I keep using my power, it will kill me faster. Ethan knelt in front of her. We'll figure something out. There has to be a way. She looked up, her silver eyes sad. Ethan, where I come from, love is forbidden. It weakens us. It distracts us from duty. But ever since I met you, I can't stop feeling this warmth. I don't understand it. He smiled gently. That's love, Lyra. It's not weakness. It's what makes life worth living. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. Then maybe your kind has something my world lost long ago. Outside, a sudden explosion shook the ground. The agents had found their trail. They're coming, Ethan said, standing up. Lyra forced herself to her feet, her glow returning brighter than before. Then we don't run this time. Lyra, no. Before he could stop her, she raised her hands. Her eyes turned pure white, and the ground trembled. Blue energy burst outward like waves of light, spreading through the forest. The trees swayed, the earth cracked, and the power lines across the hills sparked violently. The entire region went dark. Miles away, Agent Cole's truck skidded to a stop as his tablet screen flashed red. Power surge detected. Energy spike off the charts. Cole stepped out, staring at the dark horizon. She's not running anymore, he muttered. She's fighting back. Back in the cabin, the light faded. Lyra collapsed, breathing hard. Ethan caught her before she hit the floor. Lyra. Hey, stay with me. She opened her eyes weakly. I. I didn't mean to. It just happened. He held her tightly, his heart breaking. You're okay. I've got you. She looked at him, her fingers trembling as they brushed his cheek. Ethan, if they find me, don't let them take me alive. He froze. Don't say that. She smiled sadly. Stars aren't meant to be caged. Outside, distant helicopters approached, their searchlights cutting through the darkness. Ethan looked out the broken window, then back at her. Then we keep running. Together. Lyra nodded slowly, her glow returning just enough to light his face. Together, she whispered. And as the first searchlight touched the cabin, Lyra grabbed his hand once more. The air shimmered again, and the world bent around them in a flash of blue light disappearing before the agents could break down the door. Far above the forest, Cole looked at the readings on his monitor and frowned. They vanished, he said quietly. Just like the light itself. He stared into the dark sky where the stars twinkled faintly. No one can hide from me forever. But Ethan and Lyra were already gone, lost beneath the same moon that had watched them run, bound by a love brighter than the light that chased them. When the light faded, Ethan opened his eyes and found himself somewhere new. The forest, the helicopters, the noise, everything was gone. They were standing inside an old observatory on top of a hill. The air smelled of dust and metal, and moonlight shone through a cracked dome above them. Ethan blinked, confused. How did we get here? He whispered. Lyra was breathing hard, leaning against a wall. Her glow flickered like a dying candle. I bent space, she said weakly. Just a short jump. It won't last long. My energy, it's almost gone. Ethan helped her sit down on the floor beside a pile of old star maps. He looked around, realizing this was the very observatory where he had once spent his college nights dreaming of discovering life beyond Earth. He smiled bitterly. I guess I finally found it? Lyra lifted her eyes to him. You sound sad. He nodded slowly. Because I don't know how to keep you safe. I don't know what those people will do if they catch you. Lyra looked down at her hands. They won't stop. They never do. Humans seek control over everything they fear. And they fear me. Ethan sat beside her. Then let them fear me too. I won't let them hurt you. For a long time, they sat together in silence. The only sound was the hum of the wind brushing through the broken dome. Lyra turned her head toward the stars, her eyes soft and sad. Ethan, she said quietly, do you know why I came here? He shook his head. You said something about wrong coordinates. She nodded. Yes. My people sent me to study emotion. Our kind lost it long ago. We live in peace, but without feeling. No love. No pain. Only logic. The council wanted to understand why humans still cling to emotions that destroy them. But when I came close to this planet, I felt something. A pull. Like the stars were calling me down. And now I know why. Ethan smiled faintly. Because you were meant to meet me. Her lips curved into a small smile. Perhaps. You taught me what my people could not. That love isn't weakness, it's the reason light exists. He reached out and touched her hand gently. Her fingers were cool, trembling. Then stay, he said softly. We'll figure out a way for you to live here. She shook her head slowly. I can't. My body is made of starlight, Ethan. Earth's gravity pulls it apart. I'm already fading. His throat tightened. Then I'll go with you. Wherever you came from. Lyra looked at him sadly. Humans can't survive where I live. Your heart beats too slowly, your body too fragile. You would die before we reached my world. Ethan turned away, fighting back tears. Then what do we do? Before she could answer, a faint hum filled the air. Lyra's eyes widened. They're here. Ethan stood, rushing to the broken window. In the distance, through the trees, lights were moving closer, trucks, drones, soldiers. The same red glow reflected off their weapons. How did they find us so fast? Lyra closed her eyes. I'm emitting energy. I can't stop it anymore. Ethan grabbed her shoulders. Then let's run. She looked at him and whispered, no more running. Her eyes began to glow brighter, her voice calm and steady. If they want me, they'll have to go through the light. The doors of the observatory burst open. Agent Cole and his team stormed inside, weapons raised. Freeze. Step away from her. Ethan stood in front of Lyra, his arms spread wide. Don't shoot, he shouted. Cole's eyes were cold. Move, Mr. Miller. That's not a woman. It's a threat. She's not a threat. Ethan shouted back. She's alive, she feels, she thinks, she loves. Cole's face twisted in anger. Love? That thing isn't capable of love. Before he could say another word, the air shimmered. Lyra rose to her feet, her eyes glowing pure white. You are wrong, she said softly. I am love. An explosion of light filled the room. The agents stumbled back as the walls cracked and glass shattered. Cole shielded his face. Take her down, he yelled. Bullets fired, but they hung mid-air, suspended in glowing starlight. Ethan turned toward Lyra, eyes wide. Stop. You'll burn yourself out. She looked at him and smiled sadly. Even if my light fades, I'll protect you. Then we fade together, he whispered. Lyra stepped forward, lifting her hand. The bullets dissolved into dust. The agents fell back, blinded by the light. Cole fired one last shot straight at Ethan. The bullet hit his shoulder, and he fell. Lyra screamed, the sound echoing like thunder. She caught him before he hit the floor, her tears glowing as they touched his face. Ethan, please don't close your eyes. He smiled weakly. You are my star, he whispered. Her glow exploded into a blinding storm of silver light. The entire observatory trembled, beams of energy shooting into the night sky. The soldiers were thrown backward, their equipment shorting out. And then silence. When the light faded, the building was empty. No bodies, no sound, only a single glowing feather on the floor, gently pulsing like a heartbeat. Cole stared at it, breathing hard. What happened? His team surged, but there was nothing left, only dust, wind, and that soft light that refused to die. Somewhere, far beyond the clouds, a tear of starlight drifted into the dark of space, carrying the echo of two names, Ethan and Lyra. Their story was not over. It had only left the earth behind. A deep hum filled Ethan's ears before he even opened his eyes. The air felt lighter, softer, like breathing inside a dream. When his vision cleared, he saw a ceiling of light glowing softly, moving like liquid stars. He sat up slowly, clutching his shoulder, and gasped. He wasn't on Earth anymore. The room around him had no walls, just transparent energy forming smooth curves that floated in the air. Outside, through the crystal-like surface, he saw a massive blue star glowing in the distance, surrounded by floating cities shaped like silver rings. Ships of light drifted silently between them. It was breathtaking and terrifying. Where am I? He whispered. A familiar voice answered gently, You're safe, Ethan. He turned. Lyra stood nearby, dressed in flowing silver cloth that shimmered like mist. Her glow was brighter than before, but her face looked sad. Ethan's heart leapt when he saw her alive. Lyra. You saved me. She smiled faintly. You were dying. I couldn't let you go. I brought you home. Home. He looked outside again. This is your world. Lyra nodded. The city of Lyria Prime. My people live in harmony among the stars. But they don't know you're here. Humans are forbidden beyond their own skies. Ethan frowned. Forbidden? Why? She sighed softly. Because humans still feel. They fear that emotion would poison our kind again. He stared at her. Poison? Love isn't poison. To them, it is, she said quietly. A long time ago, our people were like you. We loved, we dreamed, we lost. But pain broke us. So, the elders removed emotion from our minds. Now we live without love, without war, without sorrow. Only balance. Ethan shook his head slowly. Then what's the point of living if you can't feel anything? Lyra looked away, as if she had asked herself that question many times. Before she could answer, a voice echoed through the room, calm, deep, and full of authority. Lyra of the fifth line, you've broken the great code. Ethan turned quickly. A tall figure floated into the room, wearing long white robes with glowing lines running through them. His eyes shone like small suns. Lyra bowed her head. Father. Ethan froze. Your father? The man elder Orion studied Ethan with a cold, curious expression. You brought a human here? Into our sacred realm. His voice carried power that made the air tremble. Do you understand what you've done? Lyra's voice was calm but firm. He would have died. I couldn't let that happen. Then you should have let him fade, Orion said sharply. Our kind cannot love, Lyra. You've broken the one rule that keeps us alive. Ethan stepped forward despite the pain in his shoulder. Don't blame her. I chose this too. Orion's gaze turned to him. Human, you are fragile. You don't belong among the stars. Your emotions burn too bright. You will destroy what we built. I don't care about your rules, Ethan said, his voice shaking. I care about her. The elder raised his hand, and Ethan felt invisible force pin him to the ground. His lungs tightened, he could barely breathe. Lyra shouted, Stop. Please. Orion looked at her with disappointment. You've fallen too far. Your light will fade with him. He released his hold, and Ethan gasped for air. Lyra rushed to his side. Father, I beg you spare him. Send him back to Earth if you must, but don't harm him. The elder stared at them for a long moment, his glowing eyes unreadable. Very well. You will both face the Council of Stars. They will decide your fate. Guards made of pure light appeared and escorted them through shining halls that floated in endless space. Ethan looked around in awe. The floor shimmered beneath their feet like water. In the center of the grand chamber, 12 glowing beings stood in a circle, their voices echoing like music. Lyra and Ethan knelt before them. The eldest among them spoke, Lyra of the fifth line, you have brought a human to our world and broken the law of distance. You have felt love. For this, the penalty is exile. Lyra lifted her head. Then I accept it? Ethan turned to her, shocked. Lyra, no. But she smiled softly at him. It's the only way to keep you alive. The Elder Council continued, the human must be returned to his planet. He will forget this world, and the Starlight bond will be erased. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. Please, don't erase him from me. One of the elders replied coldly, love cannot exist here. It threatens the order of light. Ethan grabbed her hand. Don't do this. If I forget, what's the point of saving me? Lyra looked into his eyes, her voice trembling. Because even if you forget me, I will never forget you. Suddenly, alarms blared. The walls shook, and a deep rumble echoed through the chamber. A bright blue light flashed outside the dome, ships of the council arriving to enforce judgment. Orion turned to the guards. Take them to the portal. Now. Lyra looked at Ethan desperately. We can escape through the wormhole at the edge of the city. It leads back to your world. Ethan hesitated. But what about you? She smiled faintly. I'll follow. They ran through glowing corridors as alarms screamed. The portal chamber opened before them, a swirling ring of light surrounded by golden pillars. Guards shouted behind them. Orion appeared again, his voice booming. Lyra, stop. If you go through, you'll lose your immortality. She looked back at him, tears falling like liquid silver. Then I'll finally live. Ethan turned toward her in disbelief. Lyra. She placed her hand on his chest. You have to go now. No, he said, shaking his head. Not without you. She smiled, her glow dimming. Bound by starlight, we'll meet again. With a burst of energy, she pushed him into the portal. The world exploded into light, and Ethan screamed her name as he fell through endless stars. On the other side, he hit the ground, dirt, grass, wind. He looked up and saw the night sky above Earth again. The portal closed behind him, leaving nothing but silence. He reached out toward the fading light in the sky, whispering her name. But only the stars answered back. Far away, in the halls of the stars, Lyra stood alone, her glow fading, her tears floating like tiny sparks. She whispered softly, "Ethan, even if the stars forget, I won't." And somewhere in the vastness of space, the universe listened. The night sky above the colony shimmered like a sea of broken diamonds, each star flickering with the silent music of distant worlds. Ethan stood near the transparent dome, staring at the vastness before him, his reflection caught between Earth and the stars. He had been through battles of the heart and storms of the soul. But tonight, all he wanted was peace and her. The soft sound of footsteps echoed behind him. He didn't turn. He already knew that rhythm, calm, hesitant, and yet full of courage. "You always find me here," Ethan said quietly. "It's like the stars guide you." Lyra smiled faintly as she stepped beside him, her silver hair glowing under the faint light. "Maybe the stars know where you belong," she whispered. "Maybe, they've been trying to bring you back to me." Ethan turned, his eyes meeting hers, and in that silent gaze, the weight of everything they'd endured flowed like a tide. The secret missions, the misunderstandings, the heartbreak, and the endless hope, all of it led here. She looked different now, not just an alien princess or a being from another world. She looked human in her emotions, fragile in her love. "You came back," she said softly, tears glistening in her violet eyes. "Even when you could have stayed on Earth." Ethan's voice was rough, trembling slightly. "Home isn't where you're born. It's where your heart beats." He took her hands gently, and for a moment, the galaxy outside seemed to pause. "Lyra, when I thought I lost you, I realized something. I'd rather die under alien skies than live on Earth without you." Lyra's lips quivered. She wanted to speak, but her voice broke before the words could escape. Instead, she leaned into him, resting her forehead against his chest. The warmth of his heart, the rhythm of his breathing, it was real, alive, and hers. But peace never came easily to them. Outside the dome, a low rumble echoed. The ground shook softly. Alarms flickered across the sky blue panels. Lyra stepped back, panic flashing in her eyes. "It's them," she said. "The High Council, they've tracked me." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Let them come." "Ethan, no," she cried. "If they see you with me, they'll destroy you. They'll call you a traitor to your kind." He smiled faintly, brushing his thumb across her cheek. "Then I'll be a traitor who loved honestly." The dome lights dimmed, and the hum of approaching ships filled the night. A dozen sleek vessels descended through the clouds, their silver armor glinting like blades of moonlight. Lyra's heart raced. She reached for him. "There's still time. You can go. They'll listen if you say you were forced." Ethan only stepped closer. "And leave you here? After everything?" The first ship landed, its doors sliding open with a hiss. A tall figure in ceremonial armor stepped out, the High Chancellor of Virelia, Lyra's own father. His cold gaze locked on her, then on Ethan. "You have shamed our kind," he declared, his voice echoing through the night. "A royal does not love a human." Lyra's voice shook as she stood between them. "Then I am no royal, father. I am just a girl who found love." The Chancellor raised his arm, a beam charging at his wrist. Ethan moved before she could stop him, standing protectively in front of her. "If you want to destroy her," he said firmly, "you'll have to go through me." There was silence. Even the soldiers hesitated. No one had ever seen a human stand before the council like that. The Chancellor studied him, a small, frail being compared to the warriors of Virelia, yet there was something unshakable in his eyes. "You would give your life for her?" the Chancellor asked. Ethan nodded slowly. "Without her, I don't have one." The Chancellor's beam lowered slightly. For the first time, his hard eyes softened just a little. "Love," he murmured. "The one thing our empire has never understood." He turned away, his voice calm but heavy. "Go. Both of you. Leave this system and never return." Lyra froze in disbelief. "Father." "Go," he barked again, but his tone cracked. It was mercy hidden beneath command. Ethan and Lyra ran through the glowing fields, past the silver domes until they reached the ship that once brought Ethan across the stars. As they entered, the engines roared to life, and the colony began to fade behind them. Through the viewport, Lyra saw her home becoming a blue speck in the void. She leaned against Ethan, their fingers interlocked. "Where will we go?" she whispered. Ethan smiled softly. "Anywhere the stars take us." She looked up at him, eyes shining. "Bound by Starlight," she whispered. "Forever," he finished. The ship drifted into the endless darkness, its trail glowing like a comet, two souls who defied galaxies to be together. And as the stars shimmered quietly, it almost felt like the universe itself was smiling because somewhere, across the infinity of space, love had won.